Before you listen, if you enjoy the stories and want to hear more, then please consider subscribing. Most of you listening aren't subscribed, so please take this time to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you'll never miss a story and be the first to hear. You'll also be supporting me. Thank you. This all happened when I finally downloaded Tinder after months of my friends telling me how great it was for meeting new people. I was skeptical, but I figured I might as well give it a go. At first, it was actually kind of fun. I spent hours swiping through profiles, reading bios, and checking out pictures. Some guys seemed really cool and interesting, while others were clearly just looking for a hookup. But hey, that's the name of the game, right? And then I matched with Jared. Let me tell you, this guy seemed like the total package at first glance. His profile was filled with pictures of him doing all sorts of adventurous, outdoorsy stuff. Hiking, rock climbing, even skydiving. And he had this smile that just lit up his whole face, making you feel like you were the only person in the world. We started chatting, and I was immediately drawn in by his charm and wit. He had a way of making even the most mundane topics seem fascinating, and he always seemed genuinely interested in what I had to say. We bonded over our shared love of trying new things and pushing ourselves out of our comfort zones. After a few days of nonstop messaging, Jared finally suggested we meet up in person. I hesitated at first. Meeting a total stranger from the internet is always a bit of a gamble. But he just seemed so normal and nice, and I figured one little drink couldn't hurt. Oh, how silly I was. We agreed to meet at this trendy cocktail bar downtown. I agonized over my outfit for hours, wanting to look cute but not like I was trying too hard. When I finally walked into the bar, I spotted Jared right away. He looked just like his pictures, which was a relief. You never know with these dating apps. He stood up to greet me, and I couldn't help but notice how tall and imposing he was. He pulled me in for a hug that lasted just a beat too long, his hands lingering on my back. But I brushed it off his nerves and sat down at the table. At first, everything was going great. Jared was just as charming in person as he was over text, and he had me laughing and blushing with his playful banter. But as the night went on, something started to shift. Jared's jokes started to take on a meaner edge, like he was trying to cut me down instead of make me laugh. And he started getting really handsy, putting his arm around me and trying to pull me closer even when I stiffened up. I tried to brush it off, telling myself that he was just a touchy-feely kind of guy. But then he leaned in close and started whispering in my ear, telling me how sexy I looked and how much he wanted to take me home. It made my skin crawl, but I didn't know how to respond. I tried to change the subject to steer the conversation back to safer territory, but Jared was having none of it. He grabbed my thigh under the table, his fingers digging into my skin. I jumped up, knocking over my drink in the process. Jared just laughed like it was all some big joke, but I could see the predatory glint in his eyes, and it made my blood run cold. I knew I had to get out of there, but I didn't want to make a scene. I excused myself to the bathroom, my heart pounding in my chest. I locked myself in a stall and tried to calm down, taking deep breaths and counting to 10. But I could still feel Jared's hands on me, his hot breath on my neck. When I finally came out of the stall, I nearly screamed. Jared was standing right there, leaning against the sink with a smirk on his face. He said he was worried about me, that he just wanted to make sure I was okay. But I could see the lie in his eyes. He wasn't worried about me. He was enjoying this, getting off on my fear and discomfort. I tried to push past him, but he grabbed my arm, his grip tight enough to bruise. That's when I knew I was in real trouble. Jared wasn't just some creep. He was dangerous. I could see it in the way he looked at me, like I was a piece of meat he couldn't wait to devour. I don't remember exactly what happened next. I think I must have screamed, or maybe someone else walked into the bathroom and startled him. All I know is that somehow I managed to break free and run out of it like my life depended on it. I ran all the way home, my heart pounding and my lungs burning. When I finally got inside my apartment, I collapsed on the floor and burst into tears. I felt violated and scared and so stupid for putting myself in that situation. It took me a long time to feel safe again after that night. I deleted all my dating apps and swore off online dating for good. I had to learn the hard way that not everyone is who they seem, that there are predators out there who will take advantage of your trust and vulnerability. Okay, so picture this. I'm on Hinge, swiping away like my life depends on it. It's been a bit of a dry spell, if you catch my drift, and I'm starting to wonder if maybe I should just give up and resign myself to a life of bachelorhood and microwave dinners for one. But then I come across Olivia's profile, and let me tell you, my jaw hits the damn floor. This girl is absolutely stunning. We're talking supermodel gorgeous with legs for days, and these piercing blue eyes that seem to stare straight into your soul. I'm practically drooling on my phone screen as I scroll through her photos. Now, I'm not usually one to get too hung up on looks. I mean, sure, attraction is important, but I like to think I'm a bit more depth than that. But there's just something about Olivia that has me absolutely captivated. Maybe it's the way she seems so effortlessly cool in all of her pics, like she's not even trying to be sexy. She just is. So, with my heart racing and my palms sweating, I muster up the courage to swipe right. And lo and behold, it's a match. I do a little happy dance right there in my living room, feeling like the luckiest guy in the world. We start chatting, and I'm pleasantly surprised to find that Olivia is actually really easy to talk to. She's funny and smart and seems genuinely interested in getting to know me. We bond over our shared love of travel and trying new foods, and before I know it, we're making plans to meet up in person. I'm beyond excited. I mean, how often does a guy like me have the chance to go out with a literal goddess? I spend hours picking out the perfect outfit, agonizing over every little detail. I want to look my best, you know. I even splurge on a new cologne, something musky and masculine that I hope will drive her wild. The day our big date arrives, and I'm a bundle of nerves. I keep checking my hair in the mirror, making sure there's nothing stuck in my teeth. I've got butterflies in my stomach like I'm a damn teenager again. But I push through the anxiety, reminding myself that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I'm just about to head out the door when I get a text from my buddy Jack. He's always been kind of a wingman for me, helping me navigate the treacherous waters of the dating world. So I figure it can't hurt to get his opinion on Olivia. I snap a quick screenshot of her profile and send it over to him, expecting him to be just as impressed as I am. But instead, he calls me back almost immediately, and I can tell from his tone that something's not right. Dude, he says, I hate to break it to you, but that's not some random girl named Olivia. That's Gisella Fortelli, the famous Italian supermodel, and she's definitely not in our city right now. She's walking the runway at Milan Fashion Week as we speak. I feel like I've been punched in the gut. I can't believe what I'm hearing. How could I have been so stupid? How could I have let myself get caught up in the fantasy of this perfect woman, without even stopping to question if she was real? I sit down heavily on my couch, my head spinning. I feel like such an idiot. I mean, of course someone who looks like that wouldn't be interested in a guy like me. It was all just a big, cruel joke. For a moment, I considered still going to the bar where we were supposed to meet just to see who would show up. But then I realized how dangerous that could be. What if it's some kind of setup? What if I'm walking into a trap? In the end, I decide to cut my losses. With a heavy heart, I block Olivia on Hinge and delete our entire conversation. It feels like I'm erasing a part of myself, but I know it's for the best. The next few days are rough. I feel like I'm mourning the loss of something that never even existed in the first place. I keep replaying our conversations in my head, trying to figure out where I went wrong, how I could have been so easily fooled. But as time goes on, I start to realize that maybe this whole thing was a blessing in disguise. Sure, it was a blow to my ego to realize that I had been catfished, but it was also a valuable lesson in being more cautious and discerning when it comes to online dating. I start to approach the whole thing with a more critical eye. I take the time to really read people's profiles to look for any red flags or inconsistencies. I make a rule for myself that I won't meet up with anyone until we've at least video chatted once, just to make sure they are who they say they are. And you know what? It actually starts to work. I begin matching with people who seem genuine and honest, people who I could actually see myself having a real connection with. It's not always easy, and there are definitely still some weirdos and creeps out there. But overall, I feel like I'm making better choices and putting myself out there in a smarter, safer way. Looking back on the whole Olivia fiasco, I can't help but chuckle a bit. I mean, how did I not see through such an obvious catfish? It seems so clear in hindsight, but I also know that I'm far from the only person who's been duped like this. It happens to the best of us, and it doesn't mean we're gullible or dumb. It just means we're human and we want to see the best in people. So if you're out there swiping and matching and putting yourself out there, just remember to keep your wits about you. Don't be afraid to ask questions, to do a little digging, and to listen to your gut. And if someone seems too good to be true, well, they probably are. Swipe on, my friends, and may the odds be ever in your favor. Sorry, I couldn't resist a little Hunger Games reference there. I'm a nerd, what can I say? But in all seriousness, happy dating, and may you find your own Olivia or Oliver, or whoever floats your boat, out there in the wild world of online matchmaking. Hey guys, sorry for interrupting, but just a quick announcement. First of all, if you're still listening, then you're amazing. Thank you for listening and supporting. Our team worked tirelessly day and night to produce these amazing stories for you. That's why we set up a Buy Me a Coffee page where you can show your support by generously donating a coffee or two to our team to keep us energized. It isn't much, but will surely go a long way. It's totally your choice, but would be absolutely amazing if you could. Again, thank you for your support. The link is in the bio and comments. Back to the stories. Bumble. The land of swiping, matching, and awkward first dates. Little did I know, it would also be the land of heartbreak and deceit. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start at the beginning. It was a typical Friday night, and I was curled up on my couch, a glass of Pinot Grigio in one hand and my phone in the other. I was mindlessly swiping through Bumble, more out of boredom than any real hope of finding love. And then I saw him. Alex. Around 6 feet, dark hair, green eyes that seemed to sparkle even through the screen. His bio was a perfect mix of witty and charming with just a hint of mystery. I swiped right so fast, I'm pretty sure I sprained my thumb. To my surprise, it was an instant match. Alex wasted no time in messaging me, and before I knew it, we were deep in conversation about everything from our favorite books to our childhood pets. He had a way of making me feel like I was the only girl in the world, like every word I said was pure gold. Fast forward a few days, and we were on our first date. Alex had picked a cozy little Italian restaurant, the kind with checkered tablecloths and tea-light candles. He looked even better in person, if that was possible. I felt like I was in a dream. The conversation flowed as easily as the wine, and before I knew it, we were the last ones in the restaurant. Alex insisted on walking me home, ever the gentleman. And when he kissed me goodnight, I swear I saw fireworks. From there, things moved quickly. Alex and I were inseparable, spending every free moment together. He surprised me with flowers at work, cooked me romantic dinners at his place, and even took me on a weekend getaway to the mountains. I was falling hard and fast, and I didn't care who knew it. But as the weeks turned into months, something started to feel off. Alex was always busy, always had a reason why he couldn't stay the night or meet my friends. At first, I chalked it up to his demanding job. He was a successful lawyer, after all. But the excuses started to pile up, and my gut was telling me something wasn't right. I tried to push my doubts aside, telling myself I was just being paranoid. Alex loved me. He would never lie to me, but the nagging feeling wouldn't go away. And then one night, everything came crashing down. We were at Alex's place, snuggled up on the couch watching a movie. His phone buzzed, and he quickly snatched it up, a look of panic crossing his face. He mumbled something about a work emergency and stepped out of the room. Curiosity got the best of me, and I couldn't help but sneak a peek at his phone. What I saw made my blood run cold. It was a text message from a woman named Sarah. "I miss you, baby. When can I see you again?" It read. My heart dropped into my stomach. I felt like I was going to be sick. With shaking hands, I scrolled through the rest of the messages. It was all there in black and white. Alex was married, and I was his side piece. I confronted him right then and there, tears streaming down my face. He tried to explain, to justify his actions. He said he was unhappy in his marriage, that he had fallen out of love with his wife. He promised he would leave her, that he wanted to be with me. But I wasn't buying it. I had heard those lines before, seen them played out in every cheesy rom-com. I knew how this story ended, and it wasn't about to be a footnote in someone else's happily ever after. I grabbed my things and stormed out of his apartment, ignoring his pleas for me to stay. I cried the whole way home, my heart shattered into a million pieces. The next few weeks were a blur of tissues, ice cream, and sappy breakup songs. I wallowed in my misery, convinced I would never find love again. How could I trust anyone after what Alex had done? But as the saying goes, time heals all wounds. Slowly but surely, I started to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. I leaned on my friends, poured my soul out in my journal, and focused on loving myself first and foremost. And then, when I least expected it, I met Jake. He was everything Alex wasn't: kind, honest, and unwaveringly loyal. He made me believe in love again, showed me that there were still good men out there. Looking back on my time with Alex, I feel a mix of anger and pity. Anger at him for lying to me, for using me, but also pity because I can't imagine living a life so devoid of integrity and genuine connection. I won't lie and say the experience didn't change me. It did. It made me more guarded, more cautious with my heart. But it also made me stronger, more resilient. It taught me that I could survive even the deepest heartbreak and come out the other side. So to all hopeless romantics out there swiping away on Bumble and beyond, I say this: don't give up. Don't let the Alexas of the world make you lose faith in love. Keep putting yourself out there, keep believing in the power of connection. I'll admit, I've never really been one for dating apps. There's just something about the whole concept that's always rubbed me the wrong way. The endless swiping, the impersonal small talk, the constant feeling that you're just one face in a sea of endless profiles. But when my buddy Steve started bugging me about Bumble for the 100th time, I figured, Ed, what the hell? Maybe I'm just being a grump. So I set up a profile, uploaded a few decent photos, and tried to come up with a bio that struck the right balance of charming and genuine. Within a day or two, the matches started rolling in, and I'll give Bumble this much: the quality of the profiles was a hell of a lot better than what I'd experienced on other apps in the past. These women seemed more put together, more interesting. But as I started swiping and chatting, I quickly remembered why I had sworn off dating apps in the first place. The vast majority of the matches were either painfully dull, clearly just looking for a hookup, or some combination of the two. I had a handful of decent conversations, but nothing that really clicked. I was starting to lose hope when I came across Amelia's profile. There was something intriguing about it. Her photos were simple but captivating, and her bio was just a couple of sentences saying she was new to the city and looking to make some new friends. I found myself inexplicably drawn to it, so I swiped right. To my surprise, we matched. I sent Amelia a casual "Hey, how's it going?" And within minutes, she responded. We started chatting, and I quickly realized this girl was different. She was funny, smart, and just had this effortless charm about her. The conversation flowed so naturally, it felt like we'd known each other for ages, not just a couple of days. We talked about our jobs, our hobbies, our families. I learned Amelia had recently moved to the city for a new job, and she was still getting settled in. As we continued to message back and forth, I found myself getting more and more intrigued by her. There was just something about Amelia that I couldn't quite put my finger on, but I knew I wanted to get to know her better. Then, 48 hours after our initial match, she dropped a bombshell. "Eddie, can I ask you a huge favor?" she messaged. "I have a family emergency back home. I need to book a flight, but I'm a little short on cash at the moment. Would you be able to cover the cost of the ticket and I can pay you back?" I stared at the message, my stomach twisting. This had to be some kind of scam, right? I'd heard all the horror stories about people getting catfished or robbed on these apps. Amelia seemed so genuine and we'd been getting along so well, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. "I totally understand if that's too much to ask," she continued. "I just figured it was worth a shot. I really need to get home as soon as possible." I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to help her, to prove my doubts wrong, but the more rational part of my brain was screaming at me to run. In the end, I decided it was best to cut my losses. I unmatched Amelia and deleted the app from my phone, trying to convince myself that I'd done the right thing. For the next few days, I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if she really was in trouble? What if I just turned my back on someone who genuinely needed help? I started to feel guilty, like I'd missed my chance to make a difference. But then I pushed those thoughts aside, convincing myself that I had done the smart thing. Amelia was probably just trying to scam me, and I wasn't about to fall for it, no matter how charming she seemed. I tried to move on, to put the whole experience behind me. Still, a part of me couldn't help but wonder what might have been. Had I made the right call, or had I let my fear get the better of me? I guess I'll never know for sure. All I can do is hope that Amelia found the help she needed, and that I didn't doom her to some terrible fate. But the guilt, the what-ifs, they'll always be there, nagging at the back of my mind. A few weeks later, I was at a party with some friends when I had overheard a conversation that sent a chill down my spine. Apparently, there had been a string of scams on dating apps in the area, people matching with unsuspecting victims, then asking them for money or personal information. The police were warning people to be on the lookout. I felt my heart race as I put the pieces together. Could it be that Amelia was part of this? Had I narrowly avoided becoming another victim? The thought made me sick to my stomach. I tried to push it out of my mind, to tell myself that I was just being paranoid. But the more I thought about it, the more convinced I became. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I kept picturing Amelia's face, her eyes boring into me, and I found myself jumping at every little noise. I started having trouble sleeping, constantly on edge, terrified that she might show up at my door. Eventually, the paranoia became too much to bear. I decided to go to the police to report what had happened and see if they could do anything. As I recounted the story to the officers, they listened attentively, their expressions grave. "It sounds like you may have dodged a bullet," one of them said. "We've been getting reports of similar scams all over the city. These people are experts at manipulation, and they'll stop at nothing to get what they want." The officer went on to explain that there was little the police could do without more concrete evidence. "All we can really advise is to be extremely cautious when meeting people online," he said. "Trust your gut instinct, and don't let yourself be pressured into anything you're uncomfortable with." I left the police station feeling a mix of relief and unease. On one hand, I was glad to know that I hadn't been overreacting. But on the other, the thought that Amelia might still be out there, preying on other unsuspecting victims, made my skin crawl. As I made my way home, I couldn't help but wonder what would have happened if I had sent her the money. Would she have disappeared with it, leaving me high and dry? Or would I have become entangled in something even more sinister? Either way, I knew I made the right call. But the experience had left me shaken, and I couldn't help but wonder what other dangers might be lurking just beneath the surface of these seemingly innocuous dating apps. From that day on, I've been a lot more cautious when it comes to online dating. I still use Bumble and other apps, but I'm much more selective about who I match with and how much information I share. And if anyone ever asks me for money, no matter how charming or convincing they may be, you can bet I'll be hitting that unmatched button faster than you can say scam artist. I've been single for a while, and my friend Sarah was constantly on my case to download a dating app and get back out there. It's worth a shot, she'd say, practically begging me to give it a try. You never know, you might actually meet someone great. I was pretty skeptical about the whole online dating thing. It just seemed so impersonal, But after a few too many glasses of wine one night, I found myself caving to Sarah's incessant nagging. All right, fine. I'll do it, I huffed, already regretting my decision. So I reluctantly downloaded one of the more popular dating apps and set about creating a profile. Now, I'm not usually one to put a ton of effort into this kind of thing, but for some reason I found myself really scrutinizing every detail. I must have taken a dozen different selfies before I finally settled on a few that I felt captured me in the most flattering way. Then came the bio. I wanted something witty and charming, but not too try-hard. After what felt like an eternity of agonizing over the perfect combination of words, I hit submit and braced myself for the onslaught of matches. At first, it was actually kind of fun. I mean, don't get me wrong, there were the usual mix of weirdos and creeps, but there were also some genuinely interesting people. I found myself swiping through profile after profile, chuckling at the occasionally clever bios and occasionally pausing to strike up a conversation with someone who seemed promising. But then one day, as I was mindlessly scrolling through the app, something made me stop short. There, right in front of me, was a profile that looked exactly like mine. Same photos, same bio, and everything. But the username wasn't mine. My heart dropped as I stared at the screen, my palms suddenly sweaty. What the actual heck was going on? Had someone stolen my profile and was impersonating me? I started swiping frantically through the profile, my hands shaking. The more I looked, the more disturbed I became. The bio was filled with all sorts of creepy, unsettling messages. Things like, "I'm always watching, and you can't escape me." The profile picture, which was one of my more flattering selfies, had been edited in a way that was unsettling, to say the least. The person's eyes had been darkened, their expression twisted into a sinister toothy grin. I felt sick to my stomach, a cold dread washing over me. Who would do something like this? And why? Was it just some sick joke, or was there something more sinister at play here? I racked my brain, trying to think of anyone who might have a grudge against me or want to mess with me in this way, but I came up empty. Without hesitation, I reported the profile, hoping the app admins would take swift action to take it down. But even after I did that, I couldn't stop obsessing over it. I kept checking back, morbidly curious to see if it was still there. And each time I saw it, that same uneasy feeling would settle in the pit of my stomach. Over the next few days, I noticed that the profile was slowly accumulating matches and messages. Apparently, the creepy bio and twisted photo weren't enough to deter some people. I cringed, imagining those poor souls chatting with whoever was behind this, completely unaware of the sinister nature of the profile. I considered reaching out to the matches, warning them about the fake profile, but then I worried that might somehow backfire on me. What if the person who created it came after me? The thought terrified me. I couldn't risk putting myself in harm's way, not when I had no idea who was behind this or what they were capable of. Instead, I decided to take a complete break from the dating app altogether. I deleted the app from my phone, hoping to put some distance between myself and this whole messed up situation. But the damage was already done. I couldn't stop thinking about that profile, about who was behind it, and what their intentions were. The days turned into weeks, and still the profile remained active. I would occasionally sneak a peek, my curiosity getting the better of me. And each time, I felt that same unsettling dread wash over me. What if that person was still out there, watching and waiting? The thought made my skin crawl. Eventually, I worked up the courage to contact the dating app's customer support, hoping they could do more to address the issue. But their response was less than reassuring. "We're investigating the matter, but we can't disclose any details about specific profiles," the rep told me, their tone even and detached. In the meantime, we recommend blocking the user and refraining from interacting with the profile. Blocking the user didn't make me feel any better. What if they were somehow able to track me down, even without the app? For all I knew, this person already had my information and could be lurking in the shadows waiting to strike. These days, I find myself constantly on edge, jumping at every strange noise or unexpected notification on my phone. I can't help but wonder if the person behind that creepy profile is out there, watching me, waiting to make their move. I've started locking my doors and windows more diligently, and I even bought a new security system for my apartment, just in case. I know it's probably just my paranoia getting the better of me, but after seeing the disturbing things they wrote on that profile, I can't help but wonder what else they might be capable of. What if there's some kind of deranged stalker, or worse? The thought makes my stomach twist with dread. I try to tell myself that I'm overreacting, that the profile was likely just the work of some sick prankster, but I can't shake the feeling that there's more to it than that, and the not knowing is slowly driving me out of my mind. Sometimes I find myself scrolling through the app just to see if the profile is still there, and every time I see it, my heart races, a cold sweat breaking out on my forehead. I know I should just delete the app and be done with it, but I can't seem to bring myself to do it. I have to know what's going on, even if it means torturing myself in the process. My buddy Jake wouldn't shut up about Tinder. He kept showing me all these hot girls he was matching with, going on and on about how easy it was to meet people. I was pretty recently single after a messy breakup, and I guess I was feeling a little lonely and sorry for myself. Jake made Tinder sound like the solution to all my problems. I could just swipe my way to the perfect girlfriend. I was pretty resistant at first. I mean, I'm a fairly old-fashioned guy when it comes to dating. I like meeting people in person, through friends or out at bars or whatever. The idea of picking a partner based on a few photos and a brief bio seemed kind of shallow and risky to me. But Jake wore me down. He kept insisting that I had nothing to lose and everything to gain, that I could always delete the app if I hated it. So one whiskey-fueled night, I gave in and downloaded Tinder. I spent way too long choosing my photos and writing my bio, It's weirdly stressful, trying to make yourself seem appealing in such a low-key way. You don't want to look like you're trying too hard, but you also don't want to look like you DJ-ed. It's a delicate balance. When I finally started swiping, I was blown away by the sheer volume of profiles. It was like this endless parade of single women, all dolled up and smiling and wanting to be picked. It was honestly kind of overwhelming. I kept swiping left on anyone who seemed even remotely incompatible. I probably passed on some great girls because I was being way too picky. But then I saw Marissa. Man, I actually did a double take when her profile popped up. This girl was stupid hot, like model hot. She had this long dark hair and big brown bedroom eyes. Her body was insane, all curves and toned muscles. I couldn't believe it when we matched. I figured there had to be some kind of catch. We started messaging and it was just so easy. We had the same goofy sense of humor, the same taste in food and travel. She was constantly cracking me up and asking me all these thoughtful getting-to-know-you questions. I was smitten. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop, but it never did. After about a week of chatting all day every day, I finally worked up the nerve to ask her out. I was so nervous, but she said yes right away. We picked this trendy fusion restaurant I'd been wanting to try. I agonized over what to wear, changed my outfit like 5 times. I wanted everything to be perfect. When the night of the date finally arrived, I was a ball of nerves. I knocked back a quick shot before heading out, just to calm my jitters. I got to the restaurant early and posted up at the bar, wiping my sweaty palms on my jeans. When Marissa texted that she was there, I spun around on my stool, my heart hammering in my chest. But as soon as I saw a woman waving at me from across the restaurant, my stomach dropped. She looked nothing like her photos. I mean, she was probably 100 pounds heavier and a good 10 years older than the pics she posted. It was so clearly a case of old, heavily edited photos. I felt like someone had dumped a bucket of ice water over my head. She rushed over to me, all smiles and excitement. I tried to force a grin, but I'm sure it looked more like a grimace. Up close, the differences between her and tender Marissa were even more striking. I felt duped, pissed off. I knew I should just be honest, tell her this wasn't gonna work out. But I hate confrontation. I panicked. I muttered some lame excuse about work, claimed I had an emergency I needed to deal with right away. She looked confused, a little hurt. I felt like a moron, but I just couldn't go through with the date. I threw some money on the bar for my drink and got the hell out of there, my face burning. I deleted Tinder the second I got in my car. I was so mad at myself for getting sucked in, for letting my guard down. I felt like an idiot. It was a pretty rough blow to my ego, not gonna lie. It made me way more cynical and suspicious when it comes to online dating. Like, I have major trust issues now. I'm always wondering what folks might be hiding, how they might be misrepresenting themselves. But in a weird way, that terrible catfishing incident led me to my current girlfriend. When we matched on Hinge a few months later, I was super upfront about wanting to meet in person as soon as, and she was totally down. When she showed up for our first date, I was so relieved that she looked just like her profile pics. Met her even. We've been together a year now and I'm crazy about her. So yeah, getting catfished sucked in the moment, but it also taught me a lot about being more cautious and savvy when it comes to online dating. It showed me what I don't want, and maybe in some roundabout way, it led me to what I do want. To a real, honest connection with an amazing woman. I still cringe when I think about that awful night with Marissa, but I also try to just laugh it off, to appreciate it for the absurd learning experience that it was. Dating is a trip, man, full of ups and downs and wild twists. You just gotta roll with the punches and keep swiping. Or, maybe get off the apps and meet people the old-fashioned way. Either way, stay open. Stay hopeful. The right person is out there. And always video chat before meeting up with an online match. Trust me on that one. I finally caved to peer pressure and downloaded Tinder. My friends had been nagging me for months, telling me how it was this fantastic way to meet new people, especially since I was new in town and didn't know a soul. I was skeptical, but I figured I might as well give it a shot. What did I have to lose, right? Famous last words. At first, it was actually kind of fun. I spent hours swiping through profiles, reading bios, and looking at pictures. Some guys had really clever profiles that made me laugh out loud, while others were clearly just looking for a quick hookup. But hey, That's the nature of the beast. And then I stumbled across Z's profile. He was cute with a friendly smile and a bio that made him seem like a down-to-earth guy. He liked hiking and trying new restaurants, just like me, and I noticed that he lived really close by, which was a plus. I figured it couldn't hurt to match with him and see if we had any chemistry. We started chatting, and things seemed to be going well. Z was easy to talk to, and we had a lot in common. I mentioned that I was new to the area and didn't know many people yet, and he seemed really interested in that. He asked me all sorts of questions about my neighborhood, my favorite spots to hang out, and what I like to do in my free time. At the time, I didn't think much of it. I just figured he was trying to get to know me better. It started off innocently enough. I'd be out running errands or grabbing coffee, and I'd spot Z nearby. At first, I chalked it up to coincidence. After all, we did live in the same area. But then it started happening more and more frequently. No matter where I went, there he was, always just out of reach, always watching me from a distance. I tried to brush it off, telling myself I was just being paranoid. But the more it happened, the more uneasy I felt. It was like he was shadowing me, learning my routines and habits. I started to feel like I was being watched all the time, like I couldn't even go to the grocery store without looking over my shoulder. And then one day it all came to a head. I was at Walmart minding my own business and picking up some essentials when I spotted Z out of the corner of my eye. He was just standing there, staring at me from the end of the aisle. And that's when I knew for sure that something was very, very wrong. I felt a surge of anger and fear wash over me, and before I knew what I was doing, I was marching over to him, my heart pounding in my chest. I confronted him right there in the middle of the store, demanding to know what the hell he was doing. Z tried to play it off like it was no big deal, like he just happened to be in the same place at the same time. But I saw right through his flimsy excuses. I told him point blank that I knew he had been following me, that I had seen him everywhere I went for weeks now. I said that I didn't appreciate being stalked, and that if he didn't back off, I was going to involve the authorities. Z got all defensive, saying that I was overreacting and that he wasn't doing anything wrong. He even had the nerve to try and gaslight me, claiming that I was imagining things. But I stood my ground. I looked him dead in the eye and told him that I wasn't going to tolerate his creepy behavior anymore. I said that I was done with him, and that if he ever came near me again, there would be consequences. And then I walked away, my head held high and my heart still racing. As soon as I got home, I blocked Z on Tinder and all my social media accounts. I didn't want to take any chances. For the next few weeks, I was constantly on edge, always looking over my shoulder and jumping at every noise. I even started considering moving to a new apartment just to be safe. It was like he had gotten inside my head and I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. But slowly, surely, the fear started to fade. I realized that I couldn't let one bad experience define me, that I couldn't live my life in constant terror. I started going out again, meeting new people and trying new things. And you know what? I actually met some really amazing individuals, both on Tinder and in real life. I realized that just because one guy turned out to be a creep, it didn't mean that everyone was like that. But I also learned some valuable lessons from the whole ordeal. I learned to trust my instincts and speak up when something doesn't feel right. I learned that it's okay to set boundaries and to stand up for myself, even if it's scary or uncomfortable. And most importantly, I learned that I'm a hell of a lot stronger than I ever gave myself credit for. Because here's the thing, dating can be a minefield, especially in the age of apps and online profiles. You never really know who you're talking to on the other side of that screen. It could be the love of your life, or they could be a total psychopath. It's a roll of the dice every time you swipe right. But that doesn't mean we should give up on love or on the possibility of connection. It just means we have to be smart about it. We have to be willing to take chances, but also to set boundaries and stick to them. It all started when my friends convinced me to give Craigslist a try. They were all about it, talking about how it was this great way to meet new people and maybe even find love. I was pretty skeptical, but I figured I had nothing to lose. What's the worst that could happen, right? I set up my profile, picked out some cute pics, and started swiping. It was actually kind of fun at first, seeing all these new faces and reading their bios. Some of them were pretty creative, others were just straight up cringeworthy. But hey, that's the name of the game. And then I matched with Drake. He seemed pretty decent at first glance. Nice smile, funny bio, all that good stuff. We started chatting, and I have to admit, I was kind of digging the attention. It's always nice to feel wanted. But as we kept talking, something started to feel off. Drake was really into talking about himself, like, a lot. He kept going on and on about his fancy car, his big house, and his high-powered job. At first, I just brushed it off as typical guy bragging. I mean, who doesn't want to impress a potential date? But the more he went on, the more uncomfortable I got. It was like he was trying to prove something to me, like he needed me to be in awe of all his material possessions. And when I didn't respond with the appropriate level of worship and adoration, he started getting kind of pissy. I tried to change the subject, to talk about something else, anything else, but Drake just wouldn't let it go. Every conversation somehow circled back to his wealth and status, like it was the only thing that mattered in the world. Finally, I'd had enough. I told him straight out that I wasn't interested in playing this game, that I was looking for something real and genuine. And that's when things took a turn for the scary. Drake blew up at me, sending me this long, ranting message about how I was just like all the other girls, how I couldn't handle a real man like him. I was pretty shocked, but I tried to keep my cool. I told him that I wasn't going to engage with this kind of behavior, and I thought it was best if we went our separate ways. But Drake wasn't having it. He started sending me these threatening messages, telling me that he knew where I lived and where I worked. He even sent me a screenshot of my address, like he was trying to prove that he could find me if he wanted to. I was freaking out at this point, my heart racing and my palms swaying. I couldn't believe that a simple chat on a dating app had turned into this nightmare. I blocked Drake immediately and reported him to Craigslist, but the damage was already done. For the next few weeks, I was constantly looking over my shoulder, jumping at every little noise. I was scared to leave my house, scared to go to work, scared to do anything that might put me in Drake's path. I kept imagining him showing up at my door or following me home from the office. It was like he had taken over my whole life, even though we had never even met in person. I kept thinking about those messages he had sent me, the way he had so casually thrown around my personal information like it was nothing. It made me feel violated, exposed, like my privacy had been ripped away from me. I couldn't shake the feeling that he was still watching me somehow, that he was just waiting for the right moment to strike. I talked to my friends about it, but there wasn't much they could do. They offered to come stay with me, to walk me in my car after work, but I knew that I couldn't live like that forever. I had to find a way to take back control, to stop letting Drake have this power over me. So I started taking self-defense classes, learning how to protect myself in case of an attack. I also got a restraining order against Drake, even though I knew it was just a piece of paper. It made me feel a little bit safer, a little bit more in control. Like I was doing something proactive to protect myself, instead of just waiting around for the worst to happen. Gradually, the fear started to fade. I stopped jumping at every shadow, stopped obsessing over the idea that Drake might be watching me. I knew that I couldn't let one bad experience ruin my life, that I had to keep moving forward. I started going out with friends again, started enjoying my life instead of just surviving it. But I also knew that I would never forget what had happened, never forget the way that Drake had made me feel. It was a harsh reminder of the dangers that lurk online, the way that anonymity can bring out the worst in people. It made me realize how vulnerable we all are, how easily our sense of safety and security can be shattered by a few clicks of a button. I'm a lot more careful now about who I talk to on dating apps, a lot more cautious about the information I share. I know that there are a lot of creeps and weirdos out there, people who get off on making others feel small and scared. But I also know that there are good people too, people who are just looking for a genuine connection, just like me. And that's what keeps me going, what keeps me putting myself out there even after everything that happened with Drake. Because I know that somewhere out there, there's someone who will appreciate me for who I am, who will treat you with the respect and kindness that I deserve. And I'm not going to let one bad apple spoil the whole bunch. So if you're out there swiping on Craigslist or any other dating app, just be careful. Trust your gut, and don't be afraid to hit that block button if someone gives you the creeps. And most importantly, remember that you are not alone, that there are people out there who will have your back and support you through anything. Because in this crazy, scary, wonderful world of ours, that's really all we have, each other. And as long as we stick together, as long as we keep looking out for one another, I know that we can face anything that comes our way, even creepy dudes named Drake. And who knows? Maybe one day I'll look back on this whole experience and laugh. Maybe I'll tell my grandkids about the time I almost got stalked by a guy from Craigslist and how I learned to be a badass because of it. Or maybe I'll just keep it to myself, a secret reminder of how far I've come and how much stronger I am now. Either way, I know that I'll never forget it. Thanks for listening in. If you like these stories and want to hear more, then please subscribe and like and support this new channel. We have more stories for you to listen to.